Good evening. Welcome to the daily bulletin of the farmers' protest. Today is 9th February 2021. The topic today is Prime Minister insults the farmers. It's already known across the nation thanks to the extensive media support that the BJP receives and the extensive social media network that they have created, that farmers' protests and those protesters have now been called Andolan Jivi by the Prime Minister himself. And that is what I'm going to discuss today. Andolan Jivi, a Hindi word. In English, it would mean those who make a living out of protests, professional protesters, those who gain from protests. What kind of gain? The Prime Minister, of course, means those who gain financially. He could also be meaning those who gain politically. He could also be meaning those who protest habitually. So, according to the Prime Minister of India, the farmers' protesters, those who are leading the protest and those who are in the protest, are all professional protesters, are protesting for the sake of protest. The Prime Minister says they don't really have a cause to protest. He goes one step ahead and he says that these people are parasites. The nation must be careful, wary of these people. If you join the dots, what the Prime Minister has thus said is the farmers' protest is without cause. Those who are protesting just for the sake of protesting. Those who are protesting because they will gain from the protest, and that gain could be financial, political, or any other thing. Those who are protesting are parasites. And India and Indians should be careful and wary of these protesting parasites. What Mr. Modi could not say in Rajya Sabha, I have decoded for you. This is Mr. Modi's statement. Is he right in saying this? Is it fair for him to say this? I, for one, am extremely unhappy and sorry. I feel really bad that the Prime Minister of my country, India, speaks in this language. I can clearly see the dignity and the pride and the calmness and the peacefulness of the farmers' protest is under attack from the indignity of the highest constitutional functionary of India. It's a battle that indignity of the Prime Minister is waging against the dignity of the farmers. It's a battle that right of life and livelihood of farmers is facing from those who want to snatch away these rights. Mr. Modi is 70 years old. He was born at the time this nation was not free. We were still under subjugation of our colonial masters, the British. India, at the time of Mr. Modi's birth, was a colony of the British. I therefore cannot ask this question that what did Mr. Modi do to free India from the yoke of the British? I will not be foolish like a BJP spokesperson who asked why Rihanna did not tweet about the Sikh massacre in 1984. He, of course, did not know that there was no Twitter then, and he, of course, did not know that Rihanna was not even born then. Let us be sensible about this. Indignity is often not the tool that a statesman will use. We all expect, all Indians expect our Prime Minister to be a statesman. But the way he spoke, the language he used, the language of words, and the body language, was that of a statesman? To me, it seemed like in the court of democracy that the parliament is, the Prime Minister, who should be the elected chief of all of us, in a manner of speaking, the king of the court of democracy, behaved like the court jester. He was light-hearted about the protest. He was cracking jokes. He was making snide remarks. He was being aggressive, arrogant, and in the only way that he knows, he was being derisive of his opponents. A man who does not respect his opponents does not know how to be in a debate, does not know how to be in a difference of opinion. What is remarkable is that Mr. Modi displayed in Rajya Sabha that he does not know how to handle democratic dissent. If the Prime Minister of India cannot handle democratic dissent, a question arises. Is he entitled to be the Prime Minister of India? I mean, I know he has won an election. I know his party has majority in the Lok Sabha. I know under the Constitution he's entitled to be the Prime Minister. But does the nation deserve a person like him who uses the kind of language that he used in Rajya Sabha to be the Prime Minister? I think Indians deserve better than Mr. Modi. Mr. Modi, who was born after India became independent, is not aware of the struggle that Indians from different political parties, from different mass organizations, from different walks of life, from different professions and vocations, came together to free our motherland from the yoke of the British. Unfortunately, Mr. Modi's parent organization, the RSS, was missing in action. They did not participate in freeing India from the British. Even after we became independent, the RSS refused to accept the national flag. They wouldn't fly it in their headquarters. The RSS had strong opposition to the Constitution of India. So it is not surprising that a lifelong pracharak from RSS, Mr. Modi, does not understand the spirit of revolt, does not understand the spirit of standing up for one's belief, the spirit of fighting for the right to ensure that the wrong does not prevail. If Mr. Modi is to be believed, Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, Bapu, the father of the nation, was an Andolanjivi. So was Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar, the father of the Constitution of India. I'm wondering what Mr. Modi's view is about those in his party who were in serial protests against the excesses and wrongs of the previous UPA government. For example, take the textile minister Smriti Irani. She was on the road on every event, on every issue, protesting loudly. And good for her. She was right in protesting. What does Mr. Modi think about Smriti Irani? Is she also an Andolanjivi? Or has her livelihood and vocation changed from Andolanjivi to Mantrijivi? She draws a salary from the public fund of India. So maybe her vocation has changed. So maybe, in Mr. Modi's eyes, she is no longer an Andolanjivi. Let's see the people Mr. Modi actually targeted and attacked. Are they Andolanjivis? I do not know them all, but I do know Professor Yogendra Yadav personally. He's the president of my party. He's the founder of the farmers' movement that I represent, Jai Kisan Andolan. Mr. Yadav was a professor. And though I was never a student, from what I hear, he was a loved professor, a respected professor, a widely accepted academic. And that was his livelihood. That was his profession. When television came to India and elections started getting covered in India, Mr. Yadav slowly grew as a respected cephalogist, one who could understand numbers in the context of elections. He became a television commentator on elections, and that was his livelihood. In 2015, when we were forming Swaraj Abhiyan and we wanted to change this country, which we still want and which we will do, Mr. Yadav and I decided that we must quit our professions, our livelihoods, and give full time to this pursuit of making India great again. So Mr. Yadav left his job at CSDS, quit. It was a reasonably well paid job. I personally quit the legal profession, which was the only source of income for me. We left stable middle class lives and incomes to become farmer activists, to become activists who would bring change in the political system and social system of India. And it is us that Mr. Modi calls Andolanjivis. What is extremely surprising is that Mr. Modi has not done one day's work in his life that has given his income. He has, right from early youth, been a pracharak of RSS. He was a whole timer, and his organization clothed him and fed him. He did not work for a living. Then he became a full time politician, and on becoming an MLA, on becoming chief minister, he was paid salary from the public fund. A person who cannot boast of having any skill that is employable, that is saleable, is calling those who have skills which society needs and society is ready to pay for. He is calling these people Andolanjivis, those who live, make a living out of Andolan. That's what really makes me sad. Mr. Modi does not recognize the mettle and quality of the people of India. He does not know how to respect his opponents. It is almost as if he has personal enmity towards his opponents. That's not how democracy plays out. In democracy, you can have opposition to views, you can have opposition to policy, you can have opposition in elections, but you let the people decide who is right and who is wrong. You present your case, you do your best to convince people, but they are the final judge. Mr. Modi does not seem to believe this. He seems to believe that his description, his labeling, his mockery will be the determinant of how India will behave. Anyone who suffers from this delusion, this sense of megalomania, this narcissism is not good for the country. Anyone who believes that by making his opponents small, he becomes big, has no idea about the size and the power of the spirit. In a way, through his speech in Rajya Sabha, Mr. Modi proved that he is perhaps the most unspiritual person in India. Mr. Modi sells religion as political software, but he seems to be the most irreligious person in this country because while I am not an expert on religion, I believe every religion teaches one to respect all forms of life, even inanimate objects. Every religion must be teaching that our love for nature, the trees, mountains, meadows, rivers, are all sacred, are all holy, are all worthy of protection. And every religion must be teaching us to respect all forms of life, and most of all, human life. That is why we do Namaskar in India, which is to say, I bow to the spirit within you. The Prime Minister of the country has shown us yesterday that he bows to no one. The Prime Minister of the country is projecting himself as a demigod. And all those who support him, who are in awe of him, who revere him, are missing this very crucial thing. A human being is pretending godlike stature, and those around him are mesmerized and have started believing that this human, this man with hundreds of failings, is actually a Superman. This myth needs to be bust. Indians need to understand that we have a political leader in the Prime Minister who is not aware of the terms and rules of engagement in politics, of civil life, of civil society. In short, the Prime Minister has insulted the farmers of India by labeling them as professional protesters. And for that, I have great, great sorrow. And I urge the Prime Minister not to insult farmers of India. They are far more important to India than the Prime Minister. They provide the source of sustenance to 135 crore Indians. If they didn't do it, they would not have elected a Prime Minister. So words that hurt farmers, farmer leaders and farmer movements are not becoming of a prime minister of a country like India, which is based on agriculture. India is a nation that respects and reveres its farmers and farm workers. Mr. Modi does not do so. And therefore, Mr. Modi, though legally may still be the Prime Minister of India, has lost that stature and height and does not share and does not demand, does not command, and does not deserve the respect that a Prime Minister of India should have. Let me share with you a few clips. I am again over time. I'm getting emotional. Can we have the photos, please? That's what the farmers' unions are saying. The protests have liberated India in response to Mr. Modi's Andolan Jivi comment. Let me show you some key developments. This is not properly. Opposition protesting farmers slams Mr. Modi's Andolan Jivi, FDI remarks. So the opposition, the political opposition in this country, are also unhappy with what the Prime Minister, the coinage, the wordplay of the Prime Minister. Next, please. What I was saying, the farmers' unions have also said that Mr. Modi's comments are an insult to farmers. Next, please. These are some of the quotes from the Prime Minister Modi's infamous speech in Lok Sabha. Next, please. Sanयुक्त Kisan Morcha, the largest banner under which the farmers are organizing this protest, has also called the Prime Minister's remarks as an insult to the farmers of India. Well, that is all for today's bulletin. I start a yatra from tomorrow, but I will, subject to the limitations of internet in Mr. Modi's digital India, try and get back to you with a bulletin from the field. Till then, please take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next bulletin. Thank you and good evening.